The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Chapter 8. The Dragon. Gold did not speak another word to any of his acquaintances for the remainder of his time in Violet City. To their credit, they did not attempt to engage him in conversation, but kept a respectable distance in spite of their obvious curiosity. He borrowed a shovel from the Pokemon Center and buried Cyndaquil in solitude. Solitude, so it appeared, but there was a subtle sensation of warmth about him that he almost failed to notice, like a mantle of wings wrapped around his body. It wasn't until the feeling left him at the southern edge of Violet City that he realized it had been there at all. "Thank you, Spirit," he murmured, looking up at the overcast sky. Although he detected no outward change, somehow in his heart he knew she was smiling. The same mysterious knowledge told him that his time in Violet City was up, and his journey would continue down Route 32. "Gold," came Spirit's whisper, "I am going out ahead of you. Be strong and very courageous. I say again, do not be afraid, for I will help you along the way." Gold nodded and flexed his fingers on his walking stick. For a moment, he looked back and saw Elliot, Ivan, Todd, Marina, and Junichi all still watching him from the entrance of Faulkner's gym. He considered saying goodbye to them properly, but the moment passed. Instead, he gave a parting wave, and then he was off down the southern trail. As it turned out, the going was not easy. Spirit's charge upon him to be strong and courageous proved well-founded. The Pokemon of Route 32 were startlingly aggressive. Twice, he was assailed by Zubat out of nowhere, who nipped at his neck as he ducked for cover. Wild Bellsprout whipped his legs with vines when he accidentally stumbled too close, and Rattata bared their fangs at him, even at a distance. At one point, an Ekans rose from its coiled posture in the grass that Gold walked, and its bite missed him by inches. Through it all, Gold struggled to control his fear, and reminded himself over and over to be strong. The Pokemon in these parts were certainly hostile, but still too weak to pose a genuine threat. He resolved in his mind to learn from the jarring encounters, pay closer attention to where he stepped in the tall grass, and scan ahead for movement. The breeze picked up slightly, and Gold frowned. This would make it harder for him to distinguish Pokemon movement from the wind-blown grass. He would need to rectify this distinction in his mind before he reached places like Route 38, where wild Magnemite and Raticate abounded.
Pretender.
Lifting his eyes from the grass, Gold perceived he had reached an area with a pond, over which was built a lengthy fishing dock. No people were on it, but that didn't matter. It was a welcome reprieve from the dangers of the tall grass. Gold hurried cautiously towards it, allowing himself to relax only when he had solid wood under his feet. At least from here, no Bellsprout whip could reach him.
Ignore me at your own peril!
A sharp burst of wind issued from nowhere, knocking Gold flat on his chest and nearly plunging him into the pond water. His head and shoulders were just over the edge of the dock, leaving him face down and staring at the ripples of the pond's surface. As his mind came out of the singular focus he'd committed to braving the grass, he realized with a start that something was present.
We need to talk.
The ripples on the pond faded away, but they did not present Gold with his own reflection. Upon the surface of the water was the image of a massive head, white, pointed, with a dark mask over its eyes. It gave him such a look of contempt that he nearly pulled away in panic. Instead, He lay frozen, staring at the face of the creature he knew to be his enemy. His mouth moved.
No!
The immediate area exploded with energy. A blast of wind shot through the pier and the grass, rattling the dock so violently that Gold was sure he would have fallen in the water if he had not already been thrown. The water burst outward with the same force as if a comet from space had stricken the pond dead center. A noise like a thunderclap issued as the tide of waves invaded the grass and sent wild Pokemon scattering. Gold gritted his teeth and clung to a support beam, his ears ringing, his head spinning.
Insect!
Roared the voice.
I did not offer you my name. It is mine! Mine! You have no right to speak it, just as you have no right to the power of the Life Giver. How dare you wield life and death when you yourself are so fragile, so mortal?
Be strong, Gold heard himself utter as he squeezed his eyes closed. And be very courageous. With a deep breath, still keeping his hand firmly on the support beam of the pier, Gold lifted himself to his feet as he stared down the hateful reflection of silver in the water. You have tried to kill me a number of times, he said, feeling a strange calm ease his heartbeat. Yet I am still here. Mortal, yes, but mortal under protection. Gold braced inwardly for another explosion of psychic rage from Silver, but it did not come. Instead, the Lugia smiled at him. Actually smiled, and it was terrible to behold. The smile told of secret knowledge and Silver's self-assurance of eventual victory.
You haven't felt them, have you?
He asked mockingly.
The signal waves from the north.
Gold kept his silence, but Silver must have seen the look of confusion on his face.
I expected not.
Silver laughed.
I grant that there are things in this world that limit my power. I will also grant that you have been uncommonly fortunate.
The smile disappeared abruptly from his countenance, as though it had never been.
But you are no phoenix. Fickle as you have been with your revival powers, you cannot raise yourself. I need but one success in my endeavors to end you for good.
Fickle? In spite of Silver's threat, Gold only registered the accusation. What, you mean Cyndaquil?
Cyndaquil, yes. One you restored, and one you buried, by no fault of either.
Silver spat his words with disdain.
You are indeed a fickle little god.
If you were watching me, Gold said with creeping anger, you knew the nuances of the two situations and my reasons for—
Nuances? Reasons?
Silver snapped, not bothering to hide his contempt.
Spare me your mealy-mouthed excuses! What good did they do Cyndaquil, or Bayleaf, or Flaffy, or Croconaw?
They— Gold had been about to answer, but he paused suddenly. Wait, Croconaw? What Croconaw?
Such an oblivious little god!
Silver cried, feigning surprise.
Did you not know? Your camper friend with the Totodile who threw you out into the darkness? Well, this paragon of mercy had second thoughts about giving up his league challenge the moment you left town. After all, it was a hard-won privilege, and he's got the best chance of anyone around him. Fire types may fall to Pidgeotto's Mudslap, and grass types to Gust, but Croconaw? Just evolve Totodile. Once he's got Ice Fang, it's one type advantage attack away from certain victory. No brain damage this time.
Silver sneered.
Or so he thinks. Perhaps he believes Faulkner ignorant of the 100 Croconaw trainers before him who schemed the same. It makes you wonder whose brains were really compromised. But I belabor my point. The Pokemon you saved went on to die, and the one Pokemon you didn't save deserved life. Life it would have had, as you yourself said, if not for you in the first place!
Stop! Stop it! Gold dropped to his knees, closing his eyes and covering his hands with his ears. You're twisting everything! It's not as you say!
I swear it on my own name!
Silver bellowed, filling the surrounding air with weighty psychic energy that Gold's hands did nothing to block out.
I swear by my future sight, and by the grave of your Cyndaquil, that Crocodile will join him in the ground. The power of the Life-Giver should not belong to you, insect. You are an abomination even among humans, and I will see you destroyed!
A sound of thrumming from his right caused Gold to open his eyes and lift his head. There, at the near edge of the pier, was a glowing flock of Mareep, at least 20 strong. The thrumming he was hearing came from the current of electrical power that passed through them, accompanied now and then by a snap of static. Though they were normally docile creatures, this particular herd looked upon Gold with bitter eyes. 2 by 2, they stepped onto the dock, forming a barrier of impassable electric wool that drew steadily closer. What about this? Cried Gold, backing away from the electric Pokemon. You fault me for meddling with lives. Is this not your doing? Mareep would never attack people naturally.
Do you suggest that we are similarly guilty?
Silver asked, in a low, dangerous voice.
Or perhaps that I am a hypocrite?
His tone dripped poison.
Stupid child. You really are tempting fate. I merely remind these wild Pokemon how often you humans swaggered through these parks, battling one after the other, until you have left a trail of their unconscious bodies in your wake. Those you don't assault, you kidnap. Their wrath is slow in the coming, but its time is nigh at last.
The electric glow from the Mareep wall grew brighter. Gold checked over his shoulder quickly to see whether Silver had commanded anything to flank him from the other end of the dock. As far as he could see, nothing had yet emerged. All that stood on the other end was the rundown remnants of what once might have been a Pokemon Center, and the mouth of a cave in a rock wall.
Ahead of you is Union Cave, in which dwells a mighty beast,
announced Silver's voice.
One who responded to my call. I leave you with the gift of choice, though it is better than you deserve. Die in darkness, or die in the light.
The Mareep were almost upon Gold, though he could no longer see them for the brilliance of their electrical radiance. By now, the static buildup had every hair of his body standing on end. He did not linger to hear more, but turned and fled at full sprint, making for the cave entrance. Whatever awaited him in there, he was not keen on dying in the blinding light.